The topic is the case for RUP, but I believe that if something is working, we shouldn't mess with it. So because I believe in that, then I have to convince myself and you that there is something that needs to be changed. Otherwise, we are having a happy, beautiful life in beautiful British Columbia. So the first part of the talk is to identify the problems of first past the post, which is the current system, and what is first past the post. And then once we identify the specific problems, then we can identify which one of the proposed systems can solve those problems, and that is how we decide which one of them is the best. If we don't identify the problem, if there is no problem, or we don't identify the problems, then how can we choose which one of these systems we have to move to? Okay? So let's start with the idea of democracy. So democracy is the rule of majority, and most people believe that the rule of the majority means more than 51% of the vote is majority. However, the word majority has confusion in it. Sometimes it is used when it is in fact a plurality or relative majority. But anyway, democracy means that those who have majority, they should rule. But by 19th century, people, the revolution in the United States happened in 18th century, and then the French Revolution and a number of other democratic revolutions happened. But then people started to realize that just having the majority rule is not enough. For example, John Stuart Mill thought that what if the majority of the people decide to kill all of the minority? Like they very democratically set an assembly and vote and democratically decide that all of the other who are minority, they shouldn't talk. So he identified the limitations of majority rule, and he called it the tyranny of majority. If they have absolute majority, they still cannot limit the personal freedoms, freedom of speech and other things. Read on liberty. It is very short and it is very informative by John Stuart. The result is a move toward what is called liberal democracy, and this liberal democracy, for those of you who are conservative or liberal, shouldn't make you happy, and those who are NDP shouldn't make you unhappy. This is not the Liberal Party. This just means that it is democratic system with the condition that the majority cannot limit the liberties of minorities. Later, it has, in the United States, has the, liberal means someone who has more progressive ideas. On this topic, on 2007, I had a presentation in United Kingdom, which I basically focused on a very, worse thing than the tyranny of majority, which is the tyranny of weak majority. And weak majority is relative majority. What if, like in the way that a number of voting systems in the world work, what if 40% of people come to power? And they take all of the power in the legislative assembly. That would be something that I'm not sure if John Stuart Mill would imagine at the time or not, but you will see that it can happen. I want you with show of hand, tell me, is it possible in Canada that one party get 100% of the seats in the parliament? Is it possible? So you know the answer, of course. So a lot of you are silent or but today I will show you that it is quite possible, and also from theoretical point of view, and I will also show you that they have been close to this happening in the life of the past 30 years of politics in Canada multiple times. Okay, anyway, so I started to think about this issue since 2007, and basically my patent and stuff happened after that. So what is the story? The story is that first past the post system was a system that people in 18th century decided that it is good for the time. You know, if you are living in 1777 and you want to ask people to vote, then you have to put the ballot box on the back of a horse and let it ride to another state and come back after a couple of days. And there is no computer, no calculator, not even mechanical calculator. So you have to keep it simple. So there is a system that came out and said that anyone, to the credit of people that at the time did it, they did something that after 200 years we are still stick with it. But for the time it was revolutionary. That was the reason that it was called revolution in the United States. This thinking that everybody's opinion can't even be technically collected was a revolutionary idea. And this method, which is called relative majority, plurality, first past the post, this works very well if you have two alternatives. Okay? And if you don't have two alternatives, then it will cause a problem. So look at this. Here we have three alternatives, and we want to buy something. And now with the, you know, if you use first past, so first of all, what do you think we should buy? Okay, there is a party, we have one choice to buy something. You know, these many people like to eat orange, these people like tangerine, and these people like banana. Okay. What should we buy, like using the terminology of John Stuart Mill, to maximize the utility, which is basically the pleasure, of most people?
Tangerine.
Banana, the majority.
Tangerine. Banana.
Oh, banana, like these people, I think they like something orange.
Greens and oranges are very similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And banana is, those who like banana, they like more energy. And they're different, okay? And basically, this system, the first past the post system, which one will be elected under first past the post system?
Banana.
Banana, okay? And then those people who wanted to have orange or tangerine, they have to go with banana. And actually, we cannot ever prove if banana is the best choice or which one of them is the best choice. Because in first past the post system, from information theory, we have missing information. We don't know if the second choice of the people who liked orange is tangerine or not, okay? But of course, all of you speculated that the second choice of these people would be this, and the second choice of these people will be this. However, we didn't ask them, and everything we say about the true nature of the feelings of these people is based on a speculation. We didn't ask them, so we don't know, actually. So the solution is very simple, and the solution is that we simply have to ask them their choices. So this is a more realistic example that can happen in any society. This is a society in which there is a strong majority of people who want to decrease taxes. And there is a minority of people that want to increase taxes. They want to increase taxes and do something with it, okay? Basically, any voting system that you choose, will lead to decreased taxes party candidate to be elected. We have two alternatives. We want to make one choice. First past the post works very well. Now we introduce, somebody comes and says, we have to decrease tax for businesses because government needs money. How can we decrease tax for everyone? And then there are people who say that we have to decrease tax for everyone. So still the people who make the, they like to decrease the taxes, they are still the majority. But they have this difference in opinion that should we decrease the tax for everyone or only for companies? What would be the choice of these people if we use first past the post? Increase taxes. Okay? So now it's not that ambiguous. So you can think that definitely it's not as ambiguous as the tangerine and orange. This is not maximizing the utility of most people. A huge majority of people are interested in decreasing tax. But what will happen is that their representative who believes in increased tax and belongs to a party that wants to increase tax will go to the parliament. There are two major problems with this first past the post system. And then these two major problems are important to be recognized, because then later we want to use them as a criteria to choose the best alternative out of the ones that are proposed in this referendum. The first problem is that at the local level, in this specific city, people are interested that someone who represents their ideas to go to the legislative assembly. Okay? And first past the post doesn't satisfy that. The technical reason for that is that from here to here, what happened is that an idea which was similar to one of the alternatives was proposed, and that causes what is called vote splitting or a spoiler effect. Okay? And then in the United States, this happens every 10 years. Like they say, oh, Ralph Nader shouldn't be a candidate, because if he's a candidate, then Democrats will vote for Ralph Nader and he is a spoiler. And then 10 years before that, they say Ross Perot shouldn't be allowed in places that are following first past the post strategy, and it has hurt people, but it has, we will see that most past colonies of United Kingdom have switched, but United States has not switched, and Canada is we are in the next 10 days in the process of switching from this system. This at the local level, there are two major problems as the result of this vote splitting. One is that a minority can win while a vast majority oppose them. Therefore, the representative of the community, that blue guy, is not actually representing the ideas of most people who want their taxes to be decreased. The other problem is that the opinion of me in this jurisdiction will not be represented. 70% of people, let's say 65% of people in this jurisdiction, their ideas can be not represented in there, because this person belongs to a party, and that party wants that member of parliament to vote for that specific opinion. Okay? So this is what first past the post does. By asking the highest ranking, is by giving you an option to choose what you like this is one of the voting members of the society. In the first past the post, we say, what do you like? Choose one person. This is how the current ballots that we vote are formed. They ask you, in North Van, which one of these candidates do you like? And you vote for one. And the other person votes for the candidate that he likes more. This method hides the other preferences. Hides the fact that this person, if we don't decrease the business tax, he would like to decrease everyone's tax. And hides the fact that if most people decided that we shouldn't decrease tax for everyone, he thinks that at least decrease the tax for businesses. But we don't ask them their second vote. Therefore, this first past the post hides the information. Now, some historical facts that if John Stuart Mill was analyzing this would be unhappy, and I am much more unhappy, because I think about, it's even not the tyranny of majority, it's the tyranny of minority. or relative majority. So let's see what has happened. These are the past elections in BC. 40% of people voted for NDP in 1991, and they got majority. Complete majority. And you may say, okay, that's relative majority. I am a relativist, fine. Then in 1996, 39% of people voted for Liberal, and NDP got 100% of power. This is not, we will talk about theory later, but this is not theory. This is the reality. And then, okay, this is the only time that I guess everybody must be happy. You know, everybody who is a Democrat. 57, and Democrat doesn't mean Democratic Party. So anyway, so 57% of people who have voted for Liberal Party, they got 77 seats. You can say that the majority got, got the power. And after that, Liberals were in power when they had 45%, 45%, and 44% of the power. And then we had the last election in which NDP got 40.36% of the vote. Sorry, Liberals got more votes than NDP, but NDP is in power. Absorb it. This is not the new system. This is the old system that exists. And it has created an unstable government in which the minority is ruling. Okay? Because some people have heard, and there is propaganda that first past the post system gives stability and gives majority rule. I just want you to see that these are. Now, does anybody know why this has happened? Why? Like even in the first past the post, you don't think that it should happen.
It depends on the location of the people who just voted.
Exactly. You're not asking from all the people in the province. So in some jurisdictions, the people who have been in the NDP, they have won with thin majorities, and it doesn't matter if in all of the other places, the most people are voting for Liberals. As long as the number of seats in the parliament are the majority, the power goes to that thing. So these are things that we have to pay attention to. Okay, so this is the first problem. The second problem is that in the Legislative Assembly, it is possible that the voice of the other groups can be totally eliminated. This is an example that shows you what you didn't believe at the beginning of the presentation. It is possible that 100% of the people in the Legislative Assembly are from a party that most people don't like. Okay? So these are the people in, let's say this is North Van. Most people want to decrease the tax, but the member of the parliament, based on first past the post, will increase the taxes. In this jurisdiction, people want to decrease the tax, but member of the parliament will vote for increasing the tax. And the same will happen here. So three people go to the parliament, all of them are voting for basically increasing the taxes, which is most people don't like the taxes to be increased. And this is possible under first past the post, because it doesn't care about the opinion of those who don't have majority, the relative majority. Now you may think, okay, it has never happened. Let us see what has happened. Just look at this. This is an example. Look at this. In this one, which I skipped last time, now look what has happened. With 57% of the vote, Liberals have 77 votes. If there wasn't two areas that NDP won, it could be 100% Liberal and 20% of people, and all of the others. How many percent is there? 43% of people could have no voice. So some people think that it's just because of green. It is not just because of green. Just imagine that, if you are a liberal, think about this. This can happen in the next election. This is not that different what we have here. NDP can go to 50% and get all of the seats. So nobody will hear any voice from any liberal if that happens. Something like this, that 77 seats goes to one party and 22 to the others. 2 to the others. Right now in the agenda is, all that, green wants its own share and so forth, which is true. These 10% of people of the BC are happening. And right now the real chance that exists is that some green people may come to power, which is basically getting their, in the current system they got 3 seats. This may go to 7 seats if it is fully proportional. Let's say 6 seats, and I promise you that nothing will crash. Okay, so this is the situation of the second thing. The second problem is very clear in this line. We have been very close to 100, so no voice of the minority to be in the parliament. So what I showed you here as a theoretical example, BC has been very close to actually have that. Now I have a number of other examples. This is in, where is that? Ohio, and Republicans got a thin majority. They have 12 members in the parliament compared to others that have 8% and 46%, and they have only 4 members in their legislative assembly. So there are a number of solutions. Parties have come up with a solution for these things, and that is coalition. So they say, okay, before the next election, this is the situation that we are happening like all the time. Like, look at these people. They sit there and they think to each other. They say, okay, look at this. We are fighting for what type of decrease. So what does the two parties do? They combine their efforts. So anyway, they form a new party that is called Conservative Party of Canada, and then they will win in all of the jurisdictions. I will show you why they will win. So if these two parties in the same jurisdictions, if they combine and create a new party, a coalition party, in all of the jurisdictions, then they will have a majority. They wanted to decrease taxes. This is not, I made this because it has happened in Canada. Actually, you will see that there was 2 conservative parties. They wanted to decrease taxes. They couldn't. So they made a coalition and they won all of the vote. But now look at the problem. Do you think that this has solved the problem of tyranny of weak majority? Okay, so the people in the parliament, they says, let's decrease the tax. No, let's decrease the tax for everyone. And then nobody is hearing the voice of those people who say increase the tax. So it didn't change the tyranny. It will make you happy if you are one of those people. So before, another group were unhappy, and now not unhappy for being ruled, unhappy in terms of John Stuart Mill. They have no voice in the parliament. Okay? So the coalition just changes the balance of power in a first past the post system. Doesn't solve the problem of representation. People also have come up with solutions. The solution that people have come up with is tactical voting. So again, these are the tactical votings that I think, I believe that it has happened in British Columbia in the past 19 years that I'm in Canada. Just to know how much Canadian we are. Like, we came from the other side of the world, and whenever I say to my wife, let's go to Burnaby, she says Burnaby is too far. So the only place that is close to us is North Van. But look at this. I live, some people may think like this. I live in West Van, and I like Greens. But Greens have not had any candidate in the past history of West Van. Therefore, these two major problems that we see theoretically and empirically exist in first past the post has led to unstable governments, contrary to the myth that if we switch from first past the post, the government will be unstable. Look at the stability of the current formation of the government. If the NDP doesn't do one thing that Greens don't like, the government will collapse. And this is not as the result of NDP coming to power, by the way. It's the result of liberals being in power, not changing the system. So is it a stable government? No. Now look at this. In 1993, first past the post in Canada, liberals got power with 41% of the vote. They got 60% of the seat, and it's called majority government. Not because, the other thing that you have to notice, when we say there is a majority government, it doesn't mean that the majority of people want it. It means that the majority of seats are there. So in the history of the past 20 years in British Columbia, it was only once that the majority of people wanted what happened. So 1993, 41% of the vote got 60% of the seats. The result is an unstable minority liberal government, which has 100% of the power. Then the Canadian Alliance, which was the Reform Party before, and progressive conservative parties, they created a new party, the coalition that we mentioned. So the Conservative Party came, was created, and then they formed a conservative minority government. So in 2006, we got so basically this was, Paul Martin minority government, and it lasted 2 years and 2 months. Then we had Stephen Harper, the leader of the coalition, got to power. Then another election in 2008, another minority government. Notice that these were the blue ones, and they don't have more than 50%. Therefore, they had to form a minority government. And for those of you who don't know, a minority government is a government that is a situation in 2006, the formation of the minority conservative government. 36% of people got the majority of seats, not the relative majority, and they had to form the government. So this is the most unstable situation that can happen. They neither have the relative, they neither have the majority in terms of people, nor have the majority in the majority of the seats in the parliament. Then we have another unstable minority government in 2008. And then we have the first shutdown of the parliament by the prime minister in 2008. Then we have the second shutdown of the parliament by the prime minister. Then we have the third shutdown of the parliament. And in that stable first past the post system, people went to the streets to protest very stably. And then we have in 2011, the unstable minority government collapsed with a no confidence vote in the parliament, and there was another election, and in this one, the conservatives with 39% of the vote, just 2% more increase from what had in the past, they got 54% of the seats, and they formed the minority of people formed a majority government in the parliament. And then again, I don't really remember exactly why. At the majority situation, still he tried to close the parliament. And then there was another election. This time, again, notice that if you have 39% of the vote and your competitor has 38% of the vote, of course, the next election, this is 50-50 chance that the government will collapse. That's the reason that now the liberals with 39% of the vote got the majority, 4% in the parliament and formed a majority, but it's called a majority government because the majority of seats are there. Now, solution. You already know the solution. The problem was that we didn't ask people what is their second and third and fourth choices. The solution is that to solve this information bug. So we ask from everyone, what is your second choice? And most probably about the decrease of taxes. If you ask these people who want decreased tax for businesses, their second choice is just the decreased tax for everyone. And those who think that the taxes, because they know that if you decrease the taxes, then education will not be free, blah, blah, blah. So basically, if you think that you decrease the taxes for everyone, then the second choice would be decrease the taxes for businesses. And these people, their second choice would be, the less tax or whatever it is. Now, if we ask the people their second choices, the method of asking, or the ballot that you saw at the beginning of today's presentation, is called preferential voting ballot. Okay? So, and that's the reason that we thought that you can, without worry, express your feelings about your preferences. We didn't talk about how we are going to vote these things. How we vote a preferential ballot is a different thing. But if we collect what are your preferences, actually we don't have missing information. Good? So this is obvious that this switch solves the fundamental information problem in the system. Now the question is that how do we, basically count this? If you think about the parties in Canada, I think all of them, they do this. They ask their people's, the members of the party first preferences, and then they check the one that has the least popularity, they drop it, they go to the next one. But because they usually are voting in a stadium or a hall, all of the people are attending, they do multiple rounds of voting. Okay? It's called runoff voting. Basically, instead of asking at once, like what we did, tell us all of your 16 preferences, they ask the first preference, then they ask the second preference, they ask the third preference, and so forth. It's called runoff voting. But, it doesn't have to be, multiple rounds. We can ask you, as we did, what are your preferences, and then, fortunately, it is not 1777, and computers can do the job. Now, we ask the people what are their preferences. They give us all of the first choice, second choice, and so forth. And now we want to vote. The most common way, if we want not to go through, the fact that political parties are all doing runoff voting means that this is the best system. Because when it is about the internal affair of the party, you're not going to leave it to the chaos of first past the post. Okay? So that's one. So if you just go home and think about it, whatever parties do for themselves is probably the best. However, we cannot do that in the whole society. We cannot go through multiple rounds of voting. Instead, we can ask them, what are your preferences? And what we do is that whatever choice has the least chance of being elected will be dropped. So we go to if it was in a party meeting, we would say, okay, look, dear green people, you will never be the choice. You have the least preferred, you're the least preferred option. So you have an option to insist, and then the blues will go to power, or you can drop your green choice and think about, give you the chance to exercise your voting power, and we will look at your second choice. And any rational person would say, okay, look at my second choice, don't drop my ballot into the garbage can. And this will result to this. So basically, we remove the green from the domain of possibilities. Why we remove the green from the domain of possibilities? Because they didn't have any chance to be elected anyway. Okay? Now, nobody's vote is in the garbage. Now we look at the second choice of these people, and that reveals the fact that most people like the decrease in the tax. And in this case, a candidate from the decreased taxes for everyone party will go to the parliament. However, it is not still ideal. This what we did is called instant runoff voting. Basically, the system automatically drops the least wanted choice, and or it is called a single transferable vote for a single candidate. Okay? It has a problem. Like if we wanted, like if we switch for the elections of an area from first past the post to instant runoff voting, that's an improvement. At least the person who goes to the parliament would be the representative of the ideas of the majority. So, like this yellow person will go to the parliament. However, it doesn't solve the problem of the blue people. Now look at the blue people. Blue people, yes, they are minority. They want to increase tax, but they are minority. But they are not represented in the parliament. So they feel that they have no voice. So, yeah, it is better. The person who is in the parliament talks about what most people want, but this doesn't solve the problem. If we just convert a jurisdiction's voting system, the final solution happens if we combine the areas. So some of you may think why they are combining the areas. There is a reason for that. Because when we combine the areas, something beautiful happens with single transferable vote, which the exact name for it is multi-member single transferable vote, and unfortunately they didn't mention and differentiate it in the voting literature that they distributed in their society. Most people don't see the difference, and I've seen people are confused about this. If we combine a bunch of areas, let's say we combine 6 areas to one electoral district, and then we decide to elect people, and let's say what is happening in British Columbia, actually they are also increasing a little bit, about 10%, the total number of members of the parliament. So we have 6 jurisdictions combined, and we are going to send 7 people to the parliament. Then something beautiful happens. The parties that have a majority, in fact, those who want to decrease the tax, if you look at here, we have 37 people who want to increase the tax, and how many people want to?
53.
53. So most people want to decrease the tax, but 37 people want to increase the tax. If it was just, if we apply single transferable vote or instant runoff voting per jurisdiction, not switching to multi-member single transferable vote. Let's see what happens. Who goes to the parliament here? Decrease, just make we will remove their first choice, we will go to their second choice, but the person who goes from this place would be decrease. Here, 2, 4, 5, 8. So here would be the blue, here will be decrease, there will be decrease, decrease, and decrease. So if we just apply single transferable vote in single jurisdictions, it doesn't solve the proportionality. Still, out of these 6 areas, only one member will be voting for increase the taxes. But if we go with multi-member STV, which is basically what is in the ballot, the simplest way that you can understand is this. There is a quota that is automatically calculated based on a formula. And the formula is basically, if we want to select 7 candidates, we divide it by 8. We divide the number of voters by 8. If we want to choose 6 candidates, we divide by 7. If we want to choose 2 candidates, we divide by 3. Plus 1. This is a very simple formula. So in this case, the quota is 12. That means that if you want to send someone to the parliament, you have to have 12 votes. For every 12 votes that you have, you can send one person representing to the parliament. That's it. So how many people? The blue people can send? They have 37 votes.
3 people.
So they can spend their 12 votes, and 3 people from this group will go to the parliament. This group has 29 votes. How many people they can send? 2 people, and they have extra 5 votes that cannot send anyone to the parliament. And these 24 people who are green, they can send 2 people to the parliament. Now, is proportionality there? Yeah, most people want decreasing taxes. Most people in the parliament want to decrease the taxes. The vote is a split between decreasing the tax for the companies or for all people. That is represented in the parliament. And there are people who want to increase the taxes, and their voice will be heard, but they are minority, as they are in the society. And these people will form a coalition government, for sure. Is this coalition government stable? It is very stable. Because if this vote of these people, if one of them convinces the other one that we have to decrease the taxes for everyone, not just for corporations, they are still the coalition government. It would need a huge shift in the public opinion to make this coalition government unstable, if it is formed like this. So this is the solution. And most of the countries that were colonies of the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and were using first past the post, they have moved to some form of basically first preferential voting system, which asks all of your ranking, and then to various forms of single transferable vote. So if you notice in close to England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, they have all moved to this system. Many types of elections in Australia is happening in this system, single transferable vote. In New Zealand too. Even in the United States, there are experiments. Basically, if we consider Canada very similar to New Zealand and Australia, we are behind.